You walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach to the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Well, let's go over what happened the last week or so. I did indeed get on my bike, and my friend was able to get me a sleeping bag, and that was most beneficial, but it's getting very cold. I can't sleep in a hammock due to the wind chill factor. I don't have enough insulation to stay warm. And so, traveled within 3 days around 150 miles by bike. My knees started acting up real bad, and butt was killing me, and it just was overall very uncomfortable, and I was aimless. I had no idea where I was going. The first night I stayed by the highway in some brush, tucked away. The next night I stayed by a boat dock. It was under like a little building or whatever with a roof. Kind of chilled in the corner, huddled there. And then the next day I started traveling to my next destination. I was going from city to city, town to town. I stopped by this park, and I was just chilling there, and all of a sudden this guy comes out of his vehicle, and he's beelining right towards me with his dog, and he's gay, you know. I could tell. I could hear the gay voice, and you know, so we get talking. I wasn't really trying to get in a conversation with him, because you know, what am I gonna say to a gay dude? But he got on the topic of like, you know, hey, you know, your bike's decked out. What are you doing? And I just kind of let him know. It's like, listen, dude, I'm aimless. I got no clue what I'm doing. I'm pretty much biking along this trail until I can get somewhere warmer, because all my stuff got burnt up, and I'm homeless. You know, that's the case. I'm completely destitute. And he is like, oh, you know, you're the third guy in the last few months that's come around here with the same story, and I've actually got a place for you to stay. You don't have to go on the soul journey anymore. It's what he called it, and I'm gonna help you get on your feet, because you know, someone as handsome as you, as articulate and put together as you, is built. These are his words, not mine. You know, you shouldn't be on the street. This is ridiculous. So he tells me his address, and he's like, hey, you know, so meet me over there. Or, you know what, you can put your bike and stuff in the back of the vehicle, and I can drive you over there. I said, you know what, it's not too far. I'll bike over there. I had this nagging suspicion. I'm like, you know what, like, this probably isn't going to go too well. I mean, first off, he's gay, so, you know, you never know what's going to happen with that. You know, the guy lives by himself, and he's inviting some young guy over, and, you know, I don't know this guy. You know, it's just very surreal, very strange to have someone who doesn't even know you and invite you over, give you a roof over your head, and, you know, have that kind of trust. So I started biking the other direction, you know, the direction I was going, and went right past this place and just kept going. He starts texting me. He's like, hey, you know, like, here's my address in case you forgot. And I'm like, you know what, I think I'm going to keep going. And he's like, no, like, I have a really nice house. You'll love it. You know, please come back. You know, at least check it out before you leave. Well, my knees started freaking killing me. And I mean, like, we're talking, like, it was incapacitated. I couldn't keep biking if I wanted to. It would have been an arduous process, to say the least. So I decided to turn back. It was about a half-hour bike ride. I turned back, and I've been staying with the guy for the last week. Now, at first it was, you know, really nonchalant. He's like, you know, you could really help me with yard work. I really want to get this house cleaned up. I eventually want to get it to the point where it can be like an Airbnb. You know, you told me you've got some carpentry experience. I'd like to utilize that. And you don't have to worry about, you know, food or rent or, you know, anything like that. Because if you work for me, we can do kind of like a work to pay program. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Whatever you'd like, I'll be your servant. and we can get this done. Well, not even a couple days in, he starts really nagging me and hounding me about getting jobs. So he starts driving me all around the area, and we pick up paper applications. And this is a guy who has been in the healthcare industry for 30 plus years, who ended up actually 8 years ago being blackballed from the industry because he is an experienced and accredited RN with a medical and doctorate and all this other kind of stuff. And females have taken over, I guess. So he found himself blackballed. All he wanted to do was to move up into an executive position, but he seemingly was unable. So for 4.5 years, he would apply every week and try to get jobs and all this other kind of stuff. And he realized that, wow, it looks like I'm not going to be a nurse anymore. And he had a slew of other health issues that basically barred him from working. And so he was, bedridden for a couple years, and instead decided to have an early retirement and collect Social Security. So this is his background. He was very well aware, especially talking to other guys, all throughout, on Facebook or people that he met while he was talking, that the job market is not good. So I fill out these applications, we drop them off, and he knows someone that was in touch with a trucking company. So I filled out an application online. I was going to go do training, CDL training, through an accredited, place out in Georgia. Well, I've been calling them now for like the past week, and I've heard nothing back, crickets. And I guess they're in a low. They're in a hiring recession, I guess, or not. They're basically in a hiring freeze. They're not hiring any new drivers, and they're not looking. I was going to get into the merchant mariners as well, but because of the government shutdown, and I have to get TSA clearance in order to get into the industry, that's not an option either. So I've basically been stuck local, and the guy is so impatient. I told him, I'm like, listen, man, it could be a couple weeks before we hear anything. So I'll continue to help out around the house. I'll do whatever you want, and we just have to be patient. Well, it hasn't even been a week, and this guy's on my ass every single day. I'm not joking you. Like, every little picadillo that comes out of this dude's mouth is, what about this job? What about that job? And I'm like, okay, well, I've already thought this stuff through, dude. I've been trying to find a job for the last 2 years. So I start thinking just like a couple steps ahead, and he's like, oh yeah, that's not an option. Oh yeah, that's not an option. And I'm like, dude, just be patient. I filled out the applications. Let's see what comes of it. And if nothing comes of it, then I'll make my way out of here. It sucks, but I'm going to have to leave. Well, he's been getting on my ass every single day. And I just tried to apply to a landscaping company. And not even an hour after, I send in the application, he's calling the aunt of the guy who runs the company, basically complaining, telling her that I said all the stuff that I didn't, and basically just ruined my opportunity at getting part-time work here. So I confronted him, and I'm just like, dude, like, what is your deal? Like, it's only been a week. I'm not lazy. I've been working around your house nonstop. I've been doing all your chores. I've been cooking. I've been cleaning. I've been, keeping my mouth shut and letting you yap as you do. And you're irritated at me. You're getting mad at me. For what? And he's like, because, you obviously don't want to work. I'm like, dude, the only other job available is working on an assembly line where they want mandatory overtime of at least 10 to 20 hours. And you're standing for 12 hours a day. I don't want to do that. I mean, this is the 21st century. This is not the Industrial Revolution. This isn't the 1920s. I'm young. You keep sitting here telling me I'm a handsome dude. I'm too good for this stuff. And now you're telling me that I have to basically do back-breaking labor when I have sciatica. It's not in the picture. I'm not doing it. And he's like, okay, well, if you don't want to do it, I'm just going to have to kick you out. And just the other day, because I raised my voice at him, because he just kept going on and on and on. He's like a woman, okay? I'm convinced that if you're gay, you've got the mind of a woman. You really do, because this guy was acting like my mom. And I left my mom for a reason. I couldn't deal with this crap. So as soon as I raised my voice, like, dude, shut up, okay? You've been going on for like like all day. Give me a break. I've done everything you've asked and then some. Give me a break. You want me here or not? And he's like, if you ever raise your voice like that again, I'm going to call the cops. I'm like, so I was mute, and I told, and finally he confronted me. He's like, why aren't you talking? What's going on? And I'm like, dude, you literally threatened to call the cops on me. Like, are you joking me? Like, you pick me up out of this position of homelessness. You dust me off. You say, as long as you work for me, and you do whatever, you can stay here through the winter, and everything will be okay. And it hasn't even been a week now, and you're threatening to call the cops on me and get me kicked out of here. And you're coming up with bullshit to tarnish my reputation in the town and get me blackballed for the one job I might have been able to get. I was talking to someone. He recently just got his channel permanently banned. And it's been brought to my attention. It's almost been made clear that I'm going to have to go hitchhiking. Like dead ass, dude. Dead ass. Because this biking, I don't know what it is, man. My knee can't take the biking. And I don't know where I'm going to go, and I don't know what I'm going to do. But yeah, this is quite the situation I find myself in. I thought I'd give an update in case you guys thought I was lying and that, I'm just a shill or whatever, but yeah. It's quite possible I find myself back on the street.